Okay. We don't endorse Steve Harvey because he's not an advocate for black men. What do I mean by advocate? I'm not talking about somebody who's just going to come on and give black men an excuse for their behavior, but somebody who's going to come on, right, and take into account of the broken black family. What do I mean? Okay, whenever we talk about what's going on with black women, some people want to come on hard, but they always make sure that they throw in the whole idea of the father not being there. Now, even if you had a two-parent household and everything was going according to plan, if you're a woman, you're going to take more from your mother. Why? Because you're going to copy what she does. Okay, even if mommy and daddy are there, you can't copy everything that a man's going to do because you're not a man. Now, if you have a son and he's growing up in a two-parent household, everything is working the way it needs to work, he's going to learn from his father. I don't even say learn more. You know, if I said that, I'd take that back. But you're going to copy what your father does. Okay? So you're going to imitate what he does. So in a nutshell, men having the father not being around affects the men more than it does the women. Okay? Because women still have somebody to imitate, somebody to copy. Growing up, after my parents' divorce, I used to love being around my uncles, just running errands with them and just being around them, simply because, you know, there were men that you can look up to and see what they're doing, how they talk, how they conduct themselves. You know, I was always fascinated by that. You know, I always loved it. And my mom was a great person, and I love, you know, I still learn a lot from her, but I'm not trying to copy her or imitate her. So to me, it makes no sense to have this whole idea where you can use the father not being there as an excuse for black women, but not so for the men. You know, Steve Harvey's the type of dude that will simply say, "Men, you have to step your game up," and just throw it out there. But then he'll get on the women, but then he'll say something to the effect of, you know, well, the father not being there is a big problem. You know, there's always this, let's look at the bigger picture when we're looking at black women so that we can put things in its proper context. But when it comes to black men, there is none of that. So I can't endorse somebody who doesn't put everything out there. To me, I feel like I can get on black men or black women because I take into account how people are brought up. And yes, you have certain things that you get from your parents, that you get from your environment, but there's also something called self-determination, where you can take your life and move it in the right direction. Okay? But even then, we don't get it right. Like I said before, when we talk about the women, it's too much excuses. It's too much daddy's not being there. You know, mommy didn't know what to do because her father wasn't there. So there's too much babying. And then with the men, though, on the flip side, it's too much hard accountability. You have to be X, Y, and Z. You know, it's not only as a black dude do you have to get your shit together, but then you also have to compete with white men as well. Right? And what people don't understand, how much time, energy, and effort it takes for black men just to reach a level of stability, let alone trying to build it and trying to compete with whoever we feel like we need to compare ourselves to. So men like Steve Harvey don't do a proper job at doing it. Also, I don't endorse him because we're at the point where we are beyond being politically correct. Okay, when it comes to black men, we can drop the hammer. We can go on national TV, talk about black men are gay, black men are in jail, black men are doing this. Even though the numbers and stats disprove it, we can still come on national TV and, you know, embarrass the hell out of black men. We can still do that, mind you. So there is no politically correctness when it comes to talking about what black men are doing. But the second we want to talk about what's going on with black women, everybody wants to be politically correct. No one wants to be the person to let the cat out of the bag. Right? You know, nobody wants that moment where as a dude you make the comment and you hear the uh-huhs and the eyes start rolling and the head start turning. No one wants to do that. It's that whole intimidation thing. I know how it is. Right, you put a dude in a room with a couple, you know, with more black women, and you're having some conversation, and you dare not say something wrong, then the heads are gonna turn. But I'm beyond that point. To be real with you, I can care less. But you have men who will get intimidated because, oh, there's more women here, and, you know, there's only a couple of guys. Forget that. You know, we're not playing matchmaker. We're not playing musical chairs. We're just trying to have dialogue. And men like Steve Harvey don't give me the dialogue that I want or that other black men want, because at the end of the day, he caters to this whole idea that there's more black women in the room than black men. So let me not say anything to offend the women. I'm like, get out of here. But you can have a room full of black men, and you can have plenty of black men get on black men. Other black men, excuse me. oh, you guys aren't doing this. You're not doing that. You're doing this and that. You're lying. You're not taking care of your kids. Even though the men that are there aren't even the men who are doing it. So this whole idea of being, not being politically correct, it applies to any crowd of black dudes. You can say whatever you want to say to a black dude. And at the end of the day, it sucks, but you have to take it. But when it comes to the women, there's always this special consideration, this special watch what you say, let me censor what you're going to say because you don't want to offend anybody. And at the end of the day, we're past that. We're past that. We're at the point now where we know the family is broken. We know that daddy's not there. Mommy made bad choices. But at this time, nothing's going to change if you are not going to hold people accountable. And men like Steve Harvey don't do that. And yeah, obviously because he's trying to sell books, trying to get ratings for whatever he's doing. But he's not doing anybody any favors. So I don't endorse him. He doesn't speak for us. Secondly, he doesn't even represent this younger generation of black dudes. To me, anywhere from 20 to 35. To me, he doesn't even represent that group. So he can't speak on what we see. When he was young doing his thing, the world was different. So he can't come on and try to act as if he grew up in that world. It doesn't work that way. I get upset because, whenever you see these topics on, black men versus black women, and they do have a black guy. So it's some older black dude, which is nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, he's not from our world. The world that he grew up in is different. Or they have somebody in the church, and black men are not in the church. So how can you be a pastor or anybody else talking about what's going on with black men when we're not there? Or how can you be an older black man from a different generation talking about what's going on? Even Obama and Michelle, they are from a different generation. Even though they look young, they don't apply. People want to take Michelle and Obama, Michelle and Barack, and act as if they're a template for what's going on now. They are older. They're damn near old enough to be my parents, to be real with you. Look at when they're born, okay? They just started having kids late. I'm 25, so if you do your math, they're almost old enough to be my parents. So when I look at Obama, I'm looking at somebody like who's my dad from a different generation. But whenever we want to talk about black women, they'll go out of their way to find black women who are more so current. Okay, it's like if you go interview a older black woman who's maybe 40, 50, 60 from a different generation, what she's going to say is completely different. She doesn't represent what's going on, to be real with you. So it'd be foolish to do so. So they always know how to cater to the right crowd in terms of having representatives of the modern black woman. But whenever it comes to black men, you have the type of dude that's not going to bring the rain. The pastor's not going to bring the rain. The older black dude's not going to bring the rain. He's not going to do it. And like I said before in closing, I'm not looking for somebody who's going to cater to black men. I'm looking for somebody who's just going to be equal in terms of how they treat both black men and women. If you're going to drop the hammer on everybody. Don't be selective. Don't cater to an audience. So in a nutshell, we don't support Steve Harvey. I don't care who else is out there. I know Hill Hopper's trying to do his thing, but I have yet to really see anybody who comes off and represents what we're trying to say, our viewpoint. Right? Not somebody who's going to come on and cater to us, but somebody who's going to come on and just argue fairly and not be afraid and not be intimidated because there's more black women in the room than there are black men. So hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. Take it easy. God bless.